In this corner, standing at 6'5", weight class unknown, but hailing from the city of sin, put your hands together for Jamieson Welsh. And in this corner, standing at 5'10", weighing in at pounds, and coming to us from his super secret bunker with no AC in Tucson, Arizona, put your hands together for Luis Montemayor.
All right. Thank you. Welcome to another edition of the Mixed Company Podcast. Of course, my name is Jamieson. I'm joined by Luis. We come together every other week to give y'all some boxing tidbits and info and the good, sweet science knowledge. Luis, what's going on, man?
Oh, Jamieson, I'm so excited about today's episode. You know, typically we talk a lot about boxing news. We talk about, fights that happened before. But today we're going to talk a lot about an event coming up that I'm very excited for. It's not Canelo Crawford levels of excitement by any means, but I have a feeling that we're in for some really good fights. But first, actually, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Delightful Smoke Shop and Apparel in Tucson. Last Saturday, they actually hosted their 3rd annual car show, and I swung by to check it out. It was a lot of fun. If y'all are listening to this episode on audio only, you got to check us out on YouTube as well. First of all, you got to see this killer shirt I copped at the store. Plus, I'm also playing some videos here of in the background of some stuff that I saw, and it was great. Just saw some. They had some sexy lowriders. They had some pastry vendors outside. It was a great turnout. Just a really cool community event. So. Shout out to Delightful Smoke Shop located at 6217 East 22nd Street in Tucson, Arizona. They're open 7 days a week, so make sure to stop by for some goodies and hoodies. And thank you all so much for sponsoring the Mixed Company Podcast.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah. So, actually, before we get into the big event coming up, let's talk a little bit about what happened last Saturday. I watched a top-ranked fight, Rafael Espinoza from Guadalajara versus Ukrainian Arnold Khegai. So that was a top-ranked fight, and we talked previous episode about how Top Rank was starting to be on Tubi, Pluto TV, the free stuff. So this is the first Top Rank I actually watched Top Rank event. I watched on Tubi. It was good. It worked. Like, it was easy to find. You know, the stream was good. No real issues. I'll admit, I was kind of down on Top Rank for, going from ESPN to just the free stuff that comes with the TV, But, I'll be a little bit more mellow this week and say that, hey, if this is what's going to happen for them for the foreseeable future, I'm cool. Like, unless you have a really old, I don't know, I guess even if you don't have a smart TV, as long as a TV that has apps, they all come with Pluto. Pluto is free. Tubi TV is free. The Roku channel, even if you don't have an actual Roku device. So Top Rank is apparently going to stay on all of those for the foreseeable future. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? If that's where we're going to end up for a while, what's your take on it?
So it's like anything else. The main thing is consistency, right? If you're on a channel or a platform every day, that's all people ask for. That's all they ask for is, hey, I know if there's a fight, it's on this channel or this is where it's at. Everything else is everything else. At this point, we can't really be beggars can't be choosers at this point. So if we know, hey, it's going to be on Tubi, then it's on Tubi. That's cool. I just think the main thing is consistency and making sure the product is of quality.
Yeah, and what kind of made me laugh was when they started broadcasting fights on Tubi and Roku. The Tubi's the one I use, but there's several options. They do have a how to watch instruction manual on Instagram, and I was like, man, that kind of bummed me out because it's you just turn on the TV and you used to watch ESPN or HBO, and there was fights every on Saturday nights, Friday nights. So having to kind of guide your audience into where to find you is kind of like, guys, how the mighty have fallen. Manny Pacquiao is Top Rank. What the hell? But I get it. It is different, and yeah, I like the idea of consistency. I don't know, how profitable that is at all. I know I didn't do. Sorry, I should have done my research, but nothing like Tubi TV is its own thing. It's all owned by something else. You know what I mean? Like they all have their, I bet you eventually one of these things is owned by like a Sony or whatever. So, there's deep pockets involved, but yeah, I just kind of wish that, I hope that consistency stays key with these folks. So,
but also it's more of the sign of the times, right? Mm-hmm. Because every sport is on different platforms. It's not like the old days where NFL is just on NBC and Fox. It's on 5 or 6. Hell, they have NFL on Netflix these days. So, it's just sign of the times. Things are ever changing. It's funny, though. Eventually, we're gonna all eventually go back to cable because when you break down these cable bills and everything, it's out of pocket that eventually we're gonna go back to what we know, which is cable. But at the time being, right now, a lot of networks and a lot of apps and a lot of companies are trying to figure out what is the niche that's going to be up next to boom. So that's why live content's always at a premium. So boxing will always have a home. We're just unfamiliar where that home is. It's like that person that always couch surfing. You don't know where they're staying at, but they got a home, but you never know where they at. That's kind of like boxing.
That's fair. That's fair. I like that analogy. Yeah, and and this is something that I'm sure we've all heard many times. The Grampy complaints. I've said it myself when every channel started to have its own app, its own streaming app. It used to be Netflix, Disney got it, but then AMC Plus, and this and that. Every other channel had their own streaming thing. I was like, well, now we're just doing cable again, but with streaming, because you have to have a package of all of these things to get to get everything you want to watch, and the price is just ridiculous. And I'm hearing, from so many people that are, I guess it was called cord cutting when you move from cable to streaming, but now they're like legal cutting. So people are finding alternatives, online to stream everything. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that we ended up in the same boat we were in, but that's life and that's capitalism, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also a sign of times that we all evolve, right? I think everything evolves one way or another. Not necessarily all for good, but I just think it's the evolution of how the viewer experience is, right? It used to be pay-per-view back in the day, or ESPN back in the day, or HBO back in the day. Now it's, hey, you got to find this app because this company invested into this, and that's where we're at.
Right. And also to be fair to Top Rank, I was angry last episode because I missed the Michaela Mayer fight that was on a Thursday night. The card started at 5 when people were still driving home from work. This last weekend was Saturday night. It was at the normal times, I was watching it like 8 p.m. or whatever. So that's a little bit more in line with what I'm used to, what the boxing should be, what it has been. So I'm going to be a little bit more grace, give him a little bit more grace this week. How's that?
That's fair.
All right, so but let's forget about what happened last week, because if you're listening to this the week that comes out, this Saturday, November 22nd, is the next Riyadh season card. Very exciting, a lot of good fighters, and I want to run through some of these, get some predictions, get some thoughts on these. So first, actually, let's get this one out of the way. It's Bam Rodriguez, very talented fighter, fighting a dude named Fernando Martinez. I believe he's from Argentina. I don't know Fernando Martinez very well. I've seen Bam Rodriguez fight. I don't know his skills well enough to kind of see like what kind of give a prediction, or they're both Bam is a very active fighter. The clips I saw from Fernando Martinez, very active fighter. So I'm hoping, there's a lot of action, a lot of punches thrown, and not a lot of when both guys are very active, but they're trying to like stay safe and keep their distance and kind of, dance around. I don't think so. These guys look like they look tough. They look like warriors. They look like they came for, they came to fight and not play. So, but I don't really have a lot to say about that one. But here's what I want to get into. Abdullah Mason from Cleveland, one of the rising stars, 19-0. He's going to be fighting a guy named Sam Noakes, a British guy. So Sam Noakes, I've looked at some clips, 17-0. So he's got a lot of power and he's got a lot of precision. He's one of those like seek and destroy fighters who they're throwing lots of punches, but they're catching their target every time. Okay. Now, one thing I'll say about Sam Noakes, a little stiff on his feet, I think. So I think Abdullah Mason is going to have to stick to footwork. He's going to really, really have to dodge those precision punches. And, Abdullah's kind of proved himself to be very good on knockouts. He's got speed. He's got knockout power. He's fast on his feet. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think about Abdullah Mason, where he's at, and what this card could mean for him going forward?
He needs to win this fight. Biggest issue is this. The biggest thing is this is a primetime showing. All the boxing eyes are watching, and it's like anything else. Whenever people are watching, and we're thinking about not just this fight, but your future fights. I think that's the big thing about boxing right now is that, yes, we're concerned about the current day fight, but we're always trying to project, fighters on what's the next 2 or 3 steps. And that's how the fights are made. That's how the buzz gets made. So you want guys that have a good buzz, guys that are on an upward trajectory. You want them to put on a good performance to where their next show is a headliner. Those are the things you're looking for when it comes to these type of event. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's the favorite. Let me just double check here while we were talking about it, but I believe he's the favorite at the moment. But that's the thing, is you want to have guys like that who are not necessarily trying to make a name for themselves, but guys that people have an idea of and they've been following along. Those guys are the ones you really want, putting on a show. He is a minus 500 favorite, so meaning that you got to put 500 to get 100 back. He has to put on a show. He needs to win. There's no excuses. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If he don't win, it's a colossal failure of the whole situation. So I'll look forward to him putting on a big show. And then again, once that takes place, we go on to who he fights next. And those are things that get talked about.
Right. And actually, I'm glad you're pulling up the odds. If you don't mind, as I go down the list for other fighters, if you could have those as well for the folks. But so here's a question for you. You said he's favored to win and he has to win. What if he does win on a decision, not a very exciting fight, not a lot of punches thrown? Does that mean because I've talked before about how we write out fighters really, really fast. Is everybody going to say this guy was a sham the whole time?
As long as you don't lose. Losing is the key. Okay. Once you lose, it's really hard. Once you lose, especially if you lose in like disappointing fashion, it's hard to get that back. It's very hard to get that back. Winning ugly is still a win. Everyone has won ugly. Every one of our favorites has won ugly or won a fight that was a close 50-50 fight. That's how it goes. But losing, here's the thing. If you lose, if you don't get a rematch, or if you get a rematch and don't win, your career is totally different. It's totally different.
That's fair. That's fair. And yeah, I've my personal opinions. Like I said, I do think we kind of the audience kind of turn on fighters really fast if they have an off night, their first loss, and all of a sudden they're a bum. They were overrated to begin with. But the kid's shown a lot of promise. He looks good in the ring, and he's clearly very, very talented. So the skill is there. The question is, we don't just want skill. People want to show as well. They want to see knockouts. They want to see, their next big exciting fighter. I think Abdullah Mason does have the potential to be, a very exciting fighter that people tune in for specifically. He is kind of early in the night. Actually, should have mentioned this first because it's in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be like 4 p.m. Let's see, 6 p.m. Eastern, I think, is when the main card starts. So if you're in the East Coast, you're going to be on the West Coast. Sorry, you're going to be looking at like 3 or 4 o'clock, something like that. Yeah. So it's a little earlier than we're used to for boxing, but it's not morning 10 a.m. first round, anything like that. But yeah, so Abdullah Mason is kind of just getting the party started. So I think hopefully in the future, if he wins this fight, if he looks good, he's going to be climbing later and later in the evening. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm also going for an Abdullah Mason win. Based on what I saw about the Sam Noakes guy, I don't know. He's got a lot of power. Maybe not someone that a type of fighter that Abdullah's fought before. My prediction is going to be goes the distance, unanimous decision, Abdullah. How's that?
That's fair.
Okay. Here's another one. Here's a big one. Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. Now, Devin Haney has kind of his esteem has fallen, over and over and over in my eyes personally, but also in the boxing world. Brian Norman Jr., from Georgia, 28-0. What's funny is Brian Norman is 28-0 with 2 no contests, and Devin Haney is 32-0 with 1 no contest. So this is with both guys had no contest on their record. Brian Norman Jr., power puncher. He had an amazing knockout earlier this year, being called the knockout of the year. I forget against which fighter, though. It was an Asian fighter. Do you think that Devin Haney could take on a guy with a lot of punching power that's basically... I see him as kind of like another Ryan Garcia, a bully in the ring, and Haney doesn't have historically not a lot of power behind his punches. Where do you see Devin Haney going after this?
So it's also here's the thing about Haney, what's his mental going into this fight? How prepared is he going into this fight? Haven't heard a lot about him in a while, so that's a good thing, I guess. Hasn't been outside, hasn't been a lot of shenanigans. That's good. Haven't heard much from his pops outside of, I think there was a fight at MSG. Him and Richard Hitchens got into it or whatever a few months back, but nothing major. I hope Devin's prepared mentally and physically for the fight. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, Devin's a guy that needs to get his name up. That's the guy that needs a really good performance because the last couple times in the ring have not been great. So those are the things that we look for, saying, "Hey, man, what you got?" Because eventually you gotta put up or shut up. Eventually you gotta put up a good performance. Like all these skills and all these things, like, hey, we gotta see it. And for him, he's kind of been forgotten when it comes to the guys in his grouping. Like, we don't talk about him getting big fights like that anymore. Like, he needs another 2 performances to get back into that conversation. We just don't think of him automatically like that. So he's also a slight underdog in this match, which is very interesting from a guy that a couple years ago was one of the faces of the division, one of the faces of the, his era, his age range of boxing. Still a young guy, so there's still time, but man, this is one of those where everybody's watching, kind of have to put up or shut up or else. If you don't win this one, it gets very 5 p.m. boxing matches with him before the card shows, before the card.
Yeah, and I want to get into that, but first, do you have the odds on these 2 guys?
Yeah, he's plus 105, which means he's a slight underdog.
Okay. Well, here's what I was going to throw at you. Based on what I'm seeing on Brian North's performance and what Devin Haney has shown, I'm expecting a Haney loss, to be quite honest with you. I would bet on a Haney loss if I was going to bet. I would expect a Haney loss. Honestly, a stoppage might be likely because Brian Norman Jr., he's, like I said, kind of a Ryan Garcia type of a bully in the ring, but definitely more of a skilled fighter. So kind of like what I mentioned with Sam Noakes earlier, a lot of flurry of punches, but he's caught more than a few dudes with a really, really good punch that lays them out. So I don't know if there's a stoppage or TKO. No matter what, I am predicting a Devin Haney loss. What does that mean for him after this? If I'm correct, or is he just gonna like fade into obscurity, or here's the thing? Okay, let me rephrase the question. I was surprised he still got another, fight with the Saudis after that terrible performance at Times Square, whenever that was earlier this year, like July 4th, I think it was. I was surprised that he's still a name for them to put out there. What's going to happen after this? He's still going to get some more shots, or
he will be on someone's card going forward, but it's one of those things where he's a fight filler, not a promoting guy. It's one of those where you're filling the card up with guys that have fought in the past or guys that you may have heard of in the past, but he won't be the main attraction no more. Or he's a tune-up guy where you fight on the way to do your big fight. Neither of those are good things. Both are far from grace for a guy that used to be able to command 7 figures. If you lose this fight, I don't think you can command 7 figures like that anymore. He's not a guy that has a lot of cachet that brings off general people like that. So it's not like, people would pop up and they're going to go see him no matter what. I don't see that. I don't see that kind of happening. So with that being said, it's kind of in a weird spot. Like, he's in a very weird spot where I don't know how this works if he loses. Like, he really needs to win. Only because if he wins, he's kind of back in the mix, right? You can put him in conversations for fights. You can put him in conversations where he's one fight away from a big fight again. But if he loses, man, hey, we forget about guys very quickly. We forget about guys very, very quickly in this situation. And he's on the verge of becoming that. What Adrian Bronner was at the later stage of his career where we just forgot about him, he randomly pop up and random fights. That would be the Haney course where he'd be in. That's how bad it would be.
Okay. Haney is really good at sticking and moving. There was an amazing performance he had against Kambosos twice, actually, where he just kept landing the jab, kept coming out of going back out of range, and is just pop, 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 frustrating the shit out of him. Great performance. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but Kambosos is also not the most talented fighter, not the best counterpuncher, not the best power puncher in the world. So I just don't see if Devin Haney gets caught with a really, really good power punch from Brian Norman Jr. I think it's maybe not lights out, but I think he's gonna end up, even if he goes the distance, those punches are gonna look real good. He might get dropped again, at least once, like he did by Garcia. And yes, I am predicting a Devin Haney loss on this fight. I am predicting.
When was the last time he looked good in the fight?
Shit, was that Cambosos actually?
Wow.
Yeah, because that's a few years.
Since you look good in the fight, where it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. I see the hype. I see. When's that last time happen? When does that take place?
So I would say, 2022 was the time he fought Cambosos the first time, and they ran it back. I think the same year. So maybe it was like
6 months later, right? It was like in December.
Yeah, because he went back to Crikey Island to fight him again.
His dad had issues getting over there because his dad had some issues. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was 2022, and then when he fought Lomachenko, people were in arms that was a gift decision. He should not have beat Lomachenko. I actually was watching that fight, and I did not think that Haney pulled off the W, honestly, but he was given to him by decision. I did not think he looked that good. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there was Ryan Garcia, which I believe was last year. But yeah, no. So I would say, unless I'm forgetting something, unless there's a Haney fight that I missed in the last few years, it was 2022 since he looked. And again, let's give credit where credit's due. He looked amazing in that fight. He just embarrassed Cambosos at home, and it was one of those situations we talked about where the hush of the crowd after you kind of see it going downhill. Your guy, everybody was hyped up for their guy. And then it's just people are just kind of checking Twitter and seeing what's up by round 9. So yeah, 2022 is what I would say.
Damn, we're going on 3+ years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good, especially for a guy this young, right? It's not like, oh, he's 35, being this near. Nah, like this is supposed to be his prime. If he's not good now, then it's kind of over. And once you become bad at this age, you really don't have many more shots to get to the top because you kind of get written off and put in a different tier of boxer, and they really can't build a fight around you. You're part of someone else's fight. You become part of he's the undercard on someone else's card. So you come on at 5 o'clock, 5:15 instead of 7:15. It's different.
Yeah. He's only 27, and you know what? I'll also give him. Let's give him some grace. Let's say that the Garcia fight was lopsided because popped for PEDs, whatever. Let's say Garcia had an unfair advantage. It was a no contest. It was not a loss. Blah blah blah. So if we remove that from the equation, again, we're still talking about him beating Lomachenko and not looking good. And yeah, it's the thing. I think it's also very damaging when you take a win and everybody thinks that you're full of shit, or that the win was bullshit.
Well, also the eye test. The eye test is more important than anything in boxing. How a boxer looks in the ring is bigger than anything because we know boxing. We know what we're supposed to look at, what it's supposed to look like, what it's not. So when it doesn't look right, hey, man, what's going on? Something ain't right. He's not good, blah, blah, blah. Those are things that's happened. That's what's been taking place. Not a good situation at all. It has not been good for Devin Haney. There hasn't been a whole lot of good coming out of his camp lately. That's the issue. We have not had a lot of success stories from him. And so until that changes, we're kind of in a weird situation.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. So Haney versus Lomachenko was 23, and him against Ryan was last year. Do I feel like April of 24?
Spring,
like that. So, spring of 24. So, and then we had, of course, the Times Square fight that was just I might be repeating myself that was a bunch of episodes ago, many months ago, and my brain is mush because I'm old. But I'm the kind of guy who always gives a lot of leeway to fighters because they look boring, they're not exciting. I know it takes a lot of technical skill, a lot of just getting up in the ring. It takes a lot of guts, and I never want to hear, oh, it's this person should move their feet more, move their head from just some fat guy on the couch with some Cheeto dust on his Twitter fingers. Like, at the very least, been in the gym, you work out, you're active. I've taken boxing classes, I've been sparring, not to say I know anything about it, but I know that it takes a lot of work. With all that said, that fight was boring as shit. It sucked. He wasn't throwing punches. He wasn't, he wasn't even moving his feet, or I'm sorry, defending the punches very well. He just keeping his
Looked
distance.
disinterested.
Yes.
Looked like he didn't really want to be there.
Yes.
And for boxers, that's a very weird place to be at. Because if you don't want to be there, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even remember who he fought that day. But honestly, it doesn't even matter. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. He walked in there snoozy, and that's the worst. Any fighter who, if they take like a major L in the ring, I'll always say like they tried their best, they went in, they didn't look fat and hungover in the ring or anything like that. He looks snoozy. So yeah. I don't know. I honestly now I'm just so curious to see what Haney's going to look like in this fight, because there was speculation by the announcers like maybe he was a little bit gun shy after the Garcia loss, taking a big hit, getting put down, etc. Now, I'm sure he knows the feedback, the audience feedback of his performance. So is he going to step it up? Is he going to look good? I don't know. It's more of a morbid curiosity for me, that fight, than really like being excited about Haney being in the ring again. But yeah, Brian Norman Jr., and thank you very much to our producer, Jabari Davis. He said Brian Norman Jr. Knocked out Jin Sasaki, an Asian boxer who was put to sleep in a spectacular fashion. So official prediction, Brian Norman win. I'm not going to go so far as to say like by knockout, him being put down or go the distance, but I definitely expect Brian Norman to win. So, all right, the main event for Saturday is going to be our boy David Benavidez from Phoenix is back to fight another British boxer, Anthony Yarde, another big power puncher, kind of similar styles, both big dudes, both high volume punchers, fast punchers, big power. They land big power shots. So, do you have the odds on those two?
It's guys? Not worth talking about. It's not worth. I mean, okay. He's minus 1,200, meaning you got to put up 1,200 to win 100 back. It's not worth mentioning.
Yeah, so that's fair. I don't think this is going to be easy work. Anthony Yarde, he's a big guy. He's 27-3. I think David Benavidez it's the whole thing about big guy versus little guy thing. I think he gets lumped in with a little guy. He's tall, but he's lean. But I think David Benavidez is naturally a big dude, who cuts weight. I've said Canelo is a little dude who's beefed up, and I think that David Benavidez is, I think he is a good choice for this weight class. I believe it's light heavyweight. So again, he's kind of leaning toward his big guy roots. I think he's got the skill, he's got the tools, he's got the talent. I think this one won't be as easy of a walkthrough for him, as long as his defense is right. So David Benavidez has to have great defense, and he has to have great power punches. Now, Anthony Yarde, I keep calling him Yarde because I'm Mexican, just how I read names like that. But it's actually pronounced Anthony Yarde. One of his more prominent losses was to Artur Beterbiev. And it was just that. Artur Beterbiev, fantastic fighter, big dude, and caught him in between a punch, and just Anthony Yarde never recovered from that. So it was that's a really good fight. If you find those highlights, it's really cool just seeing Artur Beterbiev. And he's just seeing him in the ring is amazing anytime, because that man is the real deal. David Benavidez has to do the same thing. He has to make sure he catches Anthony Yarde in between those punches. I think Benavidez can take a lot of abuse. Anthony Yarde has been catching dudes with big hits that just wobble him, just kind of sees blood in the water, then he takes advantage. I think Benavidez isn't going to be rocked as easily. So I just want to see where you think that our boy David Benavidez is now for this fight, and then just general in context in the world of boxing as one of the rising stars, and I think the future face of Mexican boxing.
Yeah, and also here's the thing that you gotta understand too when it comes to Benavidez. He's another guy where we're looking for his next fight. We're looking to see who, because he's a guy where not necessarily a mega fight, but it's a fight where it's like, oh, this is a thing. Like this is the casual sporting fan. If you match him up correctly, will be able to tune in and be like, oh, this guy, okay. That's the thing. So we're not necessarily focused on this one. He's going to win on Saturday. what's going to happen in 26 and beyond is the thing with him. That's where we're at. That's where we're kind of focused on going forward is with him. So that's where we're all interested in because, hey, man, it's like anything else. Boxing is a step. You're always making the next fight as you're fighting. Like even though the current fight at hand is important, the next bag, the next event, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how the sport sells itself. So that's kind of where we're at with him. I'm not necessarily concerned about Saturday, but he's one of the few guys where when he's fighting someone, it can literally be an event, and that's huge.
Yeah, and obviously this is me speaking anecdotally, and yes, I live in Tucson. David Benavidez is from Phoenix, so I see people come out for him. He is an exciting fighter that he has a lot of fans. Yeah, sure, maybe it's because he has a lot of fans here because this is where he's from, but I don't know. It seems to me, based on what I've seen, like he's got a lot of hype and a lot of people behind him, and he's been just the one of the most avoided fighters in that higher weight class range in recent history. I think that he made a good choice stepping up and sticking around the light heavyweight weight class. The question is, he's always one of the big names. Beterbiev versus Bivol. Now here's an interesting one. Beterbiev was supposed to be on this card. I don't know if you remember us talking about it.
Yep.
Earlier in the year. He dropped out for reasons unknown. Whatever, doesn't matter. So that was there was already some grumblings of like, well, these two guys are fighting on the card, or depending on how they look, they might match up together. But in this, I mean, should we worry about Beterbiev just kind of being like on his way out? He took a very prominent L against Bivol, but also, not the man's legacy is secure. That man literally went out swinging, and he looked great in that fight. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't, snoozing or anything. Just, he happened to take the L. But he's also getting up there in age. I don't know if I think he's over. Is he over 40 now? But he is 40. He's 40. So, I mean, are we going to see the end of the Beterbiev era? And, there's a lot of a lot of the older kind of Eastern European boxers are kind of on their way out. Alexander Usyk, biggest win of his career, hasn't really been talking about him coming back. Lomachenko just officially retired. Of course, talked about coming back, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that, there's that era of these Eastern European guys that seems to be kind of in decline, not because of their skills, because, they're getting up there in age and they're about ready to hang it up. So I don't know. Where do we think that Benavidez is going to land? Do we think that he has a chance at Bivol next year?
That's the biggest thing. We don't know, right? Like there's no obvious choice, right? There's no obvious match where it's like, oh, this is a no-brainer. It's really weird because as of right now, I would be inconclusive with the answer. Okay. I would say, hey, we need to wait for this fight to end and see what else is out there. But as of right now, there's really nothing that's like a no-brainer. Let's get this match tomorrow once Saturday finishes. I don't see that right now.
But why not? Because again, the guy Benavidez went up to that weight class. Bivol is the guy to beat. He's a star. He looked great in both fights against Beterbiev. Sure, he lost the first one, took the W on the second one, but he still looked great. And he's not. Sure, he's taking some time off to recover from like a head injury or something like that. Whatever it is, I don't remember. But he's not going to be back till 26. But like, Benavidez has just been kind of doing his thing, fighting whoever he needs to fight, is get his name out there and show that he's proven. Like, I don't see any other big name other than Beterbiev at that weight class. Right. But again, if he's on his way out, he's on
the way out. There's no other. I remember once Terrence Crawford won, they was trying to make that fight, but Terrence Crawford came out immediately like, nope, we're not doing that.
Crawford versus Beterbiev? Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Crawford was like, no, we're not. Oh, no. They wanted Crawford to move like 175 because remember he moved up for this one?
Yes.
They want to move again. He was like, nah, bro, I'm not doing that. So that's the thing. It's a weird thing. And that's a good point you mentioned. A lot of the Euro guys have been taking their money and bouncing. Mm-hmm. They're not fighting into their 40s, not running it back. And that's very interesting because the money's there. There's always money there for a fight, but a lot of guys are just enjoying their money and their fame and living happily ever after. So It's a very good question that we don't have an answer to right now. We may not get an answer to until early to mid next year.
Right. Sergey Kovalev, I think this year too, retired.
It was
So
time for him, but yeah, yep,
sure. But I'm just saying, like, it's on that wave of
yep.
this year, and I mean, and also it kind of, I don't know anywhere near enough to speak on this, but the wave of Eastern European fighters stars of that was a thing. It was a thing that peaked, seems to be on the way out just naturally. And what's going to be the next big thing for boxing, the next trend in boxing, I
Right.
don't know. But then the question always comes back to the same thing. I feel like we're goddamn broken records. Is it's more difficult for a star to emerge because there's not enough fights happening and they're harder to find now.
Yep.
Like I spoke well of watching Top Rank on Tubi. I'll do it again, but it's not the same as turning on ESPN on a Saturday night. It's just not.
Well, the money behind the productions are way different, right? ESPN has a big budget.
Yes.
A lot of production budget, a lot of resources into it, a lot of effort behind it. Like, people just think the lights come on Saturday night. Nah, bro. It starts Tuesday, man. They're here. They get set up. They interview, all the work, all the pre-work, pre-setup, everything, man. And that's the thing that's noticeable. Like, to me, HBO was the best. HBO in their day, they were flawless with their production. Their on-camera people, their pre and post stuff, the build-up. They were the example, and it takes a lot of money to do that. And you got to want to with said money. And not every media company understands that, especially when it comes to boxing. So that's why it's been such a drop-off, because HBO and Showtime did a hell of a job with those things. ESPN was cool because they're ESPN, they do sports, they're fine. But other than that, it's been rough outside the PBC stuff that was on mainstream television for a minute. Outside of that, it's been rough.
Right. I feel like what I would like is, and I don't believe that's ever going to happen. It's like a fantasy, I'll say, is that HBO brings it back with less of a budget, but it's like the nostalgia factor. I mean, how many things are like, are we seeing coming back from our childhood, and all these TV shows getting rebooted, and bringing back all these things. And I feel like it would be a big thing. It wouldn't be like it used to be. There wouldn't be the big pay-per-view stars, but like, I feel like there's an opportunity to say HBO is getting back in the boxing game. We were the ones to beat back in the day. They still have a very good reputation for, quality shows. It's not like their esteem has fallen or anything. Sure, they wouldn't be putting, the production they were, but just if HBO's was like, yeah, we're going to have fights all summer, every Saturday night, I think people will lose their shit, especially old heads like us.
So it wouldn't be HBO because they're out of sports altogether. Sure. It had to be Amazon or Netflix. Those are two, or Apple. It has to be one of those three, because those three have the money. So when you have money, you can put together a really good production show. HBO's out of sports, so I don't think they would invest money going back into sports. But Netflix, Amazon, and Apple all do sports in some way, shape, or form. I think that'd be our best bet.
Sure, and that's what's most likely. I'm just saying, like, again, the fantasy in my head of them saying, for nostalgia purposes, we're not getting into sports, period. Because I mean, and again, I've only ever cared about boxing. Was there HBO ever known for any other sport? Like, did they ever get involved in anything? Because I always remember
a lot of documentaries and all that kind of stuff. So HBO Sports Department, I believe, is all gone now.
Right.
And boxing was a big part of that. I would love for boxing to go back to HBO. Trust me, as someone who pays for HBO, I would love for boxing back. I just, unfortunately, once I got out the business 10 plus years ago, like, it is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, and that's fair. I mean, it's fair for a network to say, like, that's everybody else's thing. And everybody has an Amazon account at least. So, everybody, every smart TV comes with the Amazon app. So if it would just became a place to find a lot of fights, then I think it's all going to be pretty easy for everybody to find. Do you have something?
No, I mean, I really am with you. I just feel that you got to make it. You have to adapt. And like you mentioned, everyone has Amazon. Most people have Apple iPhones or have access to it. So make it easier for the people who want to watch it. Tubi is a thing where people who are 60 years old don't know what Tubi is. Well, I'm just being honest with people who are of that age. They're not that familiar with that. So good luck with that one.
That is fair, yes. But also, Tubi is sort of the prime place to get the Grampies in there because they have a lot of the old nostalgia shows. I don't know if you ever scrolled through that.
They do, but you want to be you want to make it as user friendly as possible. That's the best thing I can say. You want to make sure you're able to direct somebody very easily. But at the end of the day, man, people want to watch it, they're gonna watch it, and if Tubi is a thing, then people will get to it.
Yeah, like I said, it's the thing that comes with every TV. It's like you have a remote and then you have Tubi, or and like I said, the Roku app. Top Rank is also on something called Vizio. I have no idea what the hell Vizio is, but that was on their Instagram. Is it?
Yeah, Vizio's a TV. Yeah, they do electronics.
Oh, okay, well maybe they have a Vizio app that it's on, but I saw it on Instagram when it said watch on Tubi, Roku, and Vizio. So it's wild. I mean, obviously this event on Saturday that we're talking about, the Ring 4, they call it, that's a pay-per-view event. So financed by the Saudis and promoted Turki Al Sheikh, who, by the way, said the era of pay-per-view was dead, and now he's charging $60 for this shit. Just saying,
of course. Are we surprised? Like, go on now.
No, we're not surprised, but I feel like it needs to be said. It needs to be, put out there. But and also needs to be said that the Saudis are involved because they're trying to whitewash their human rights abuses. Look up Jamal Khashoggi when you get a chance. Anyway, but yeah, this fight is in Saudi Arabia, so Abdullah Mason goes on at like 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Benavidez ring walks are about 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Jesus. Man, I got to stop drinking when I wake up in the morning. So, I'm really excited about it. I'm going to be checking it out and hopefully have a night of good fights. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention my prediction for Benavidez. Definitely a win. I'm going to say I'll go all in and say he gets the knockout. I'm going to say he's a smart enough fighter that he catches Anthony Yarde and gets another knockout. And so that's, I'm putting it out there into the ether. All right. So now that we reviewed that, it's time for our recurring segment that we call Pop Pugilism, in which we discuss a movie, TV show, or documentary about boxing. And as always, the segment is brought to you by our other sponsors, our friends at the Bad Movies, Worst People podcast. They sent us a new ad, so let's check this out.
Have you guys heard about Bad Movies, Worst People?
Heard about it. I'm on it.
Are you?
I'm on it too.
Where can I hear it?
Anywhere you get podcasts. You can get Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube.
Videos on YouTube.
I hear they have videos on Patreon as well, and ad-free.
There's 2 different tiers, just like when I cry.
The inner and the outer.
It's Bad Movies, Worst People. We take a movie that could be considered bad for whatever reason, use it as a jumping off point to make inappropriate jokes and have conversations that have almost nothing to do with the movie. And then at the end, we decide whether or not we like it. If you want to laugh and you like bad movies, come check us out, because we usually like them too.
I hope you like bad impersonations and accents, that is.
The best thing I love about them is they deliver every Monday. They don't take breaks.
We release an episode every single Monday, plus 2 Patreon episodes a month, plus an episode every Friday the 13th. And more and more and more and more.
Knitting, knitting, knitting. Podcasty.
Thanks, you clowns. Shout out to one of their hosts, Derek, who is turning 40 years old this month and celebrating by choosing only movies he personally wants to talk about on the show. Happy birthday, Derek. Jamieson and I are right behind you because we are washed and turning 30 as well soon. So, all right, the movie we're talking about today. It's a movie that is maybe still in theaters, probably not for long by the time you hear this. It is called Christy, directed by David Michod, or Michod, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, starring Sydney Sweeney, Ben Foster, Merritt Weaver, and Katy O'Brien. So this is the story of Christy Martin, the person who legitimized women's boxing, started boxing in the late 80s, came to fame when she signed with Don King in 1993. Fought on the undercard on Chavez fights, Tyson fights, lots of others. Was a closeted lesbian most of her life. Married her trainer, James Martin, and was a victim of horrible domestic abuse. It's a wild story. Jamieson, before we get into the movie, can you tell everybody what you remember about the real Christy Martin in the boxing world?
Like, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, that's the thing I remember. She was always on undercards of big fights. And she was like the first women's boxer that you repeatedly saw. Like, whenever there was a big fight, you saw her on undercard, or maybe even sometimes even right before the big fight, and you see her and she's usually putting in work. And like, damn, she really go. So that was the thing that bringing back to my childhood is being able to watch her fight literally twice a year on every Don King or just big fight in general. She'd be getting on her. There's only a handful of women boxing in that era that we really remember, and she's probably the biggest one off top.
Sure. And what was the sort of public perception of her? I mean, obviously she's a talented boxer and she commanded respect in the ring, but were fans like, get this broad out of here. What is she doing here?
No, because it wasn't marketed like that. That's the thing. It was marketed its own way. It wasn't trying to remember, it wasn't its own card. If it was its own card, I think you would have got a lot of that. But it was just a part of the vision of the big card. So whatever the big card was, that's what that was. It wasn't a part of anything else. So I think that's kind of where we're at with that. Again, she was the first big one that we saw. Of course, there was other ones that came along and surpassed her, but she was like the first one where like, oh, she's fighting again. Oh, this is her again. Oh, I remember her. And then next thing you know, she's fighting for like 8-10 years. And like, oh, okay. And you start expecting her on the undercard. But yeah, I remember her very well. Very, very well. And it was, like I said, it was part of the whole program. It was part of the whole card. It was a big part of, whatever fight was going on. She was a part of the evening. It was really cool, and you get to know her. And then she also opens the lane up for others to come behind her. Without her, we don't have Layla Ali like that. We don't have the ones that are fighting today. So those are the things that you look back at, like Don King was very smart. Not just putting it on a random Tuesday in some random place, but having it on a card when you have 17,000 people in the building and millions plus watching on TV. Very, very brilliant marketing by Don King and the people that be.
Yeah. Did you get any sense of, anything about her personal life coming out, or, kind of seeping into the public consciousness, or was all just private, like the movie showed?
I think a lot of pride. A lot of pride. But here's the thing too. Back then, we didn't care about people's sexualities like that. It was kind of a known thing that if a woman athlete, especially a boxer, we kind of knew what it was. Like, people didn't care. Like, we cared about the boxing, not necessarily what you did off the court or out the ring or anything like that. It was just, oh, she's fighting again. Oh, she's nice. Oh, damn, fight's over. That's it. It wasn't nothing else.
Gotcha. Well, and to be fair, I feel like if it wasn't explicitly stated, but there's a lot of, and maybe it's a difference between like actors. Actors came out and ruined their career. So I wouldn't say that people didn't care, because still to this day, people are still in the closet today. So
I think women athletes is different.
Okay,
we don't care about women athletes being gay like that.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it really shows a lot that the biggest people in the movie, the biggest people who are really, really against it are her family, like her mother. Like, she's the one who absolutely was like, completely against any kind of homosexuality. But yeah, how did you think this movie worked or not as a Christy Martin story? Christy Salter's maiden name.
It was cool. It's interesting, like the times, right? Like, bring up the times, the family being staunchly against it, and being alive back then and kind of knowing how things go. It's very fascinating how things have changed over 30 years. Because in today's day, there's so much society pressure of letting people be who they are. Whether they gay, straight, bi, whatever, you let them be what they are. You don't judge. That's how it is. Back then, it wasn't like that. You had an old school mentality, and that created a lot of resentment in general. But yeah, it's very fascinating how things have changed and whatnot. With that being said, unfortunately, it fueled her. And that's, as crazy as it sounds, that's how a lot of athletes get fueled, is having resentment from people who love them or that they love. And here we are.
Yeah, well said. I think the movie, I think it is a good movie. I think it's a good portrayal of her story. I think the movie just is a little imbalance between the boxing stuff and the personal stuff. This is very much, most of the time, a boxing movie. So we've talked about a lot of other movies that are about boxers, about their lives and the drama, etc. And the sport in itself is not front and center. This is not the case here. Like, this is very much the sport is front and center for most of the movie, and then it goes completely away from that into her personal life, which is totally fine. I just felt like we're watching two different things. Watching a couple of different movies. performances were good. Sydney Sweeney is not the most acclaimed dramatic actress.
Stop stuttering. Say it with your chest.
She's not the most acclaimed dramatic actress. I think she did a good job here for her. I think she did probably her best performance. But yeah, I mean, let's be real. Like I watched some romantic comedy that she was in last year. There was a big hit with her and Glenn Powell, who I really like. Man, the movie was terrible, and she was terrible. She was awful in that movie. But also, she is mired in controversy now. She made an American Eagle Gene ad that was kind of eugenics-y, like implied eugenics, and in this political climate, she was actually asked about it in a GQ interview, like, what's up with this ad? And she was like, I like wearing jeans. I wear jeans and a t-shirt all the time. I'm like, the most like either completely tone deaf or just went over her head response. So I say that to say this movie was a historic flop. Like it is in the record book. So it's a $15 million budget. It had a $1.3 million opening weekend, which is at the bottom 10 opening for wide releases ever. Wide releases.
I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear about it.
Yeah. So a wide release is considered anything over 2,000 screens. Okay. So this movie is in the bottom 10 of all of those movies ever released in over 2,000 screens. So I don't know if maybe Sydney Sweeney's, celebrity is a little tainted right now. She also had a couple of other flops this year, I think, before any of that other stuff was came out. So I don't know. I mean, could it be her? Could it be that just movies about female fighters don't sell as well?
Is it both? Market whatever you put out. You cannot not market a sport movie, a boxing movie. This has to have commercials on podcasts, on TV shows. You got to market. If you're putting $50 million into something, you need to spend another $1 million to market. If you're not going to do that, then you deserve whatever happens to you.
That's fair. Yeah, and I hadn't heard about this movie until like I go to the movies all the time, so I saw it pop up on my my movie theater app, and I was like, what the hell is this thing called Christy? Because I'll just click on anything to see what it is, and a lot of the times I don't know if it's an AMC thing, but they have a lot of Jesus movies, so they just have like the movie called like Shining Light, and I'm like, okay. It's like, oh, shining light of Jesus coming from this family that found their faith, blah blah blah, which is weird. So I'm always like, all right, let me see if this is like a Jesus movie. Like, is it Christy? Is that what it's supposed to be?
Christy's
but
no, wild.
Messing around. But anyway, no. So I never saw a trailer. Didn't know anything about it other than Sydney Sweeney and boxing movie. So I was like, oh, it's actually Christy Martin, like it's a real fighter, blah, blah, blah. So of course it's a natural fit for the show. But another thing, I was the only person in that movie theater, in that screen that night.
Oh yeah.
I was by myself. I was by my lonesome.
Yeah.
So it was, just kind of indicative of how this movie just absolutely just crashed and burned. I'll say this: I don't think the movie itself, overall, regardless of Sweeney's involvement and her controversy, whatever, I don't think it deserved that. I think Christy Martin's story definitely did not deserve that. I think Christy Martin's story deserves to be seen, heard, learned about, and it's just an incredible story. Gets wilder and wilder the more you learn about it. But also now we've had 2 years in a row, Jamieson, with theatrically released films about female boxers that flopped. So if you remember last Christmas, we watched The Fire Inside, the Clarissa Shields movie. That one did slightly better, $8 million on a $12 million budget. This one was $15 million. I don't know how it's gonna. By the time it leaves theaters, it might be like less than 5. But still, I mean, people are coming out for it, and it's a bummer. I mean,
people have Fire Sticks, bro. People not paying to watch no movie. People have Fire Sticks and other apps. It's not happening.
This movie attendance has gone down, but there are it's picked back up from where it was like in its lowest. But again, the lowest was like 2020, so you can't really compare.
Right.
Yes, we're coming back from that. The absolute crater, but the movie business bouncing back. This is my area of expertise because I love the movie theaters. I love going to the movies. Like I would always rather choose to go in than just watch something at home if I have the opportunity. So this is my bag. By the way, speaking of Jesus stuff, Chicago Pope, whose name I forget, that man actually gave a speech on the importance of movies and cinema. So I was like, man, am I going to go back to church? Am I going to be in church for the first time since I was a baby? Because I see why they call him infallible. But yeah, movies, cinema are very important to me. I don't know. I mean, what do you think this film kind of stands on in terms of a boxing film and the story? Like, do you think more people?
Like I said, it was all right. It was all right. Like you said, it was a box for all the movies we used to watch. It was more boxing than film, if that makes sense. So it was all right, but it's nothing I'm going to watch again. Like I'll probably forget it before Thanksgiving. To be honest with you, like it's not like I wouldn't spend money at the theater for it. So that's for those who did, cool. But nah, this ain't really. I mean, it was all right, but it's like a homework assignment. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie. It's like, all right, and then you forget about it a couple days later. That's all.
Okay, I'd give it rate it a little bit higher than a homework assignment. It's still I think it's a pretty good depiction of boxing. Obviously Sweeney trained. She did the boxing scenes herself. There wasn't a stunt double. You could see that she put in work, and I think those scenes mostly look good. Not as good as in other films, but I don't know. And it's my two favorite things in the world. 2 out of 3 movies, boxing, and drinking are my favorite things in the world. So, there's worse ways for me to have spent, a lonely weekday night in the theater by myself. Right. But yeah, I mean, not the greatest. What I think I will kind of say is that I hope more people at least do some research into Christy Martin's story. At the very least, actually, I remember that there was a documentary about her on Netflix called Deal with the Devil. Okay. So I have not seen it. I will watch it. And if you absolutely don't want to support Sydney Sweeney, cool, man. I'm not going to argue the point. But I think that not just an athlete, but as a historic figure, as somebody that has an amazing story, the shit that she went through, I think Christy Martin deserves our respect. Not just as boxing fans, but like as a figure in our society. And I just hope people learn more about her. So
that's fair.
Yeah. And I cannot finish this off without talking about Ben Foster, who plays her husband, James Martin. Excellent in this movie. Ben Foster is it's like Giovanni Ribisi on a budget. He's a We Have Giovanni Ribisi at Home actor for a long time.
Right.
But he's very talented. Interesting actor, has taken a few risks here and there. Like he used to be kind of a young pretty boy that went away from like the typical pretty boy actor route. So, but he is amazing in this movie, and he plays the scumbag husband so well. It's one of those like Joffrey in Game of Thrones, like that kid's a good actor because you just want to strangle him, right? So definitely shout out to Ben. And everybody in this movie was great. Sydney Sweeney was her best performance of somebody that's not a great dramatic actress. So, we kind of grade her on a curve. Katy O'Brien, who's awesome, is Lisa Holloway. She is somebody that I think deserves a lot more starring roles. Check out the movie Love Lies Bleeding from A24. Amazing Katy O'Brien performance. I think she would have been a better Christy Martin, honestly, than Sydney Sweeney, to be honest with you. Gotcha. But yeah, final thoughts on this. We always rate movies out of 4 gloves on this show. What would you give the movie, Christy?
2.75. It wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't like, here's the thing. It wasn't about, you got to go see this. But it was cool for what it was. Like, it told the story well. It was strictly an assignment type of film. It wasn't like this is dope. I'll rewatch when it comes on regular TV. But for what it was really solid.
Yeah, I just figured out this is what it is. This is the biggest issue. This movie has Oscar bait written all over it. This is failed Oscar bait.
Great call. They're aiming for something and they miss completely. You're correct.
Yep. Yes, there's very clearly, it's one thing to be like Oscar bait and it's a good movie, it just didn't make it. This is failed Oscar bait.
Yep.
And you could tell Sweeney was trying hard, just tried real hard. So, but like I said, movie theater experience. I still love watching boxing stories, and at the very least, Christy's story was really interesting. So I'm gonna go 3 gloves. on my end. Yeah, so nothing amazing, nothing. But also, I wasn't sitting there just kind of annoyed, like, oh, when the hell this is going to be over or anything like that. So but yeah, I'm definitely going to check out the documentary. It's actually called Untold: Deal with the Devil. So hopefully that's better. And yeah, I would recommend everybody to at the very least read up on Christy Martin. It's a crazy story. So all right, so Jamieson, where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter at the Jamieson. That's the best place to find me at.
Excellent. You can follow our show on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. We're at Mixed Co Podcast on all those platforms. Subscribe to our show on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Please leave us a 5-star review. It only takes a minute, and it helps us out more than you can possibly know. You can watch us on YouTube. Check out our handsome mugs. The link is on the show notes, or find our playlist on the 19 Media Group channel. We have an official show email address. If you have any questions for the mailbag, fun stories about watching boxing and mixed company, send it all to letters@mixedcopodcast.com. Don't forget, we drop new episodes every other Thursday, so please join us again on December 4th. Hopefully, we'll be talking about how amazing the Ring 4 card was this weekend, and we'll talk about more news, just more spicy takes from the boxing world. So we have been the Mixed Company Podcast, a 19 Media Group production. Thank you so much for listening, and salud.